Thank you very much for joining us today for AMGC's webinar on the fourth step of the manufacturing value chain, which is production. Michael Sharp is our host as always, and I'll pass it over to Sharpie to start the event. Thank you, Sharpie.
Thank you, Kelly. Great to be with everyone yet again. This time you might notice that I'm not in the mobile Zoom studio, so I feel a bit awkward being at the AMGC headquarters here in Customs House in Sydney. But great to be joined by a great panel of speakers today who we'll get to shortly. I'd like to start by giving acknowledgement to country. In the spirit of reconciliation, the AMGC acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples today. So as I mentioned, I'm right here in Customs House down at Circular Quay in the city of Sydney. It's blue sky as I look out the window. So good to be with you all today, and the car is safely parked up downstairs, so a bit unusual. Now, can I remind everyone that we are recording these seminars, and I know that many of you have been watching the playbacks on our YouTube channel, so please continue to do that, and feel free at any time to reach out by text message or email me if I can help in any way when you've got questions from those playbacks. We will do a survey of you to get your feedback to see how we can keep improving these seminars as we move forward, and we welcome all your feedback to make these better every time. Please remember to submit your questions throughout the next hour. Use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and I'll be able to ask questions of our panellists as we go throughout the next hour together. So keep those questions coming as always. Now, can I introduce our panellists? I'm really glad we've got Kimberly Taylor joining us today from Shingleback Off-Road down in Albury-Wodonga region. It was great to be with Kimberly and the team recently at Albury and see the great production underway. Kimberly is the co-founder and CEO of Shingleback Off-Road, which develops products that help bridge the gap between time-poor families and the great outdoors. I highly recommend you have a look at the website for Shingleback, and you'll see some great photographs there. Proudly a 100% Australian-owned company with a commitment to supporting local manufacturing and local suppliers, which I saw firsthand. So this is good work. Kimberly previously worked in the public sector in the human services field. She's certainly passionate about people and bringing people together and supporting them to get out there and enjoy the great outdoors. So welcome, Kimberly.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm going to have plenty of questions for you, so hang on. And we've also got Stephen Walsh, who's coming to us from Western Australia. Stephen is the co-owner and director of Glide, Glide Products. Have a look at their website. You'll see some great innovations going on with wheelchairs. Glide is a wheelchair manufacturer in Balcatta, Western Australia. Steve is involved in all operational aspects of the business, and this includes research and development, designing and manufacturing. Prior to purchasing Glide back in May 2019, Stephen co-founded SPG, which was a mining services company. And before this, he spent 25 years in senior management positions across mining, mineral processing, infrastructure and maintenance, and holding such roles as the engineering manager and production consultant and much more. Certainly a diverse career which has taken him around the world to places like the Republic of Georgia, Mexico, Fiji, Thailand and even Jamaica. We might ask you a bit about that, Stephen. Glad you could join us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So I think we've got some slides to put up, Kelly. And as always, we see the smiley curve there. We know that the values in manufacturing are shifting, and we'll talk a bit about that. But from the very start in the 18th century, when we saw steam power and the transformation of manufacturing to mechanical production, it really changed the way the world operated on the human scale. We all came off the land and started making stuff that we could sell to our neighbours and our communities and then further afield. We've talked about Henry Ford and mass production when Industry 2.0 started in the 19th century. We know that Henry Ford, his ancestors, are still running the Ford Motor Company today. So we know that the smart companies that keep using technology to evolve do continue to grow. We have some great examples in Australia of those, companies like the Varley Group in Newcastle or AH Beard, who have production for bedding and mattresses all over Australia. Industry 3.0, the third industrial revolution. Think about the automation and the computerisation of the workforce, the paperless office that we heard so much about, This is, again, another transformation across industry right around the world. So this brings us to today, Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution, which is really the digital transformation of manufacturing. And aren't we all seeing that today? It's great to be able to walk the factory floors all over the country. Down in Tasmania a couple of weeks ago, it was terrific to meet some local business leaders down there and see the work underway. And we were talking especially about robotics welding and the technology there to be able to build things around heavy earth moving equipment and other materials that we needed for welding capabilities. So we know that manufacturing is shifting. We can see the value increases there on the smiley curve to such things as research and development and sales and services. I'm looking forward myself particularly to talking in upcoming workshops around the sales side of things. I always like seeing the innovation that's going on out there with all of you across your businesses. But today we're talking about production. And we know that there's so many different ways of making things, and there's so many ways that you're all using innovation in your business today. And we're going to hear more about that from Kimberly and Stephen about how they're using production techniques in their business. And hopefully they can share some insights that make valuable for you in your business today. So Kimberly, I'm going to start with you, and you might just need to unmute there. I'm going to ask you about the production at Shingleback, because when you look at that website and the photos you guys have on your Instagram page, I've got no surprise that you have so many customers beating a path to your door. Tell us about the production side.
Great. Yeah, well, the Instagram is always good fun to see us out there testing and feeling what the product was like. So the production side for us, Andrew and I sort of came to this business a little bit later in life, and we actually chose an outsourced model. So we work hand in hand with our manufacturer of our products. Andrew's the R&D and design, and then he works with the team to get the production up and running. So literally our products are produced on the border, right from the ordering of the steel right through to the end product. And we work with, it's Lead Manufacturing that is our partner in this. So yeah, it's a little bit different, I think. Is that fair to say? And, you know, so that they make the product, and they are unique because they also assemble, package and freight for us. So
well, I've got to say, we have this on a global scale though too, Kimberly. We have the likes of Apple, who do all their research and development in California. They design great products, but if we just think about the iPhone, they design that in California, and on the back of most iPhones it says, you know, designed in California, assembled in China. So they've outsourced their production, but all the high value add things they're doing are in the USA. So I'm interested to know how does your business, how does Shingleback go from the design process to the production side? What was the process?
Yeah, so we're very hands-on, and that's probably, you know, attributable to the Instagram feed. So recently we've just done a road trip to Tasmania with the product, making sure that the new tweaks that we're incorporating into the rack do what they say that they'll do, and get those bikes safely from one destination to another. So we work hands-on here locally, prototyping and testing the design. Then we take those designs into Lead, and they work with us on that refining of the product. And then we're ready to go. We get the jigs and everything made, and get the product happening and out there.
So you mentioned Lead, who I met with down there with you, and they're a local engineering firm. They employ quite a large workforce. How did that relationship come to be? Did you shop around to find the right manufacturing partner, or was it an existing relationship? Can you take us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's brand new. We did a lot of research. We actually were lucky enough to have some mentors. One of our brand ambassadors, Dean Lucas, is a world champion downhill rider. His family actually started Lucas Mills, so another mega manufacturing success from the northeast of Victoria, and they make wood mills. Mm-hmm. So we were fortunate. We called in on Rex Lucas for a bit of mentoring support, and started to talk to local contacts about, you know, what we wanted to do and what we wanted to achieve, and how could we do that locally. So that led us to Lead Manufacturing's door, and also down to a few manufacturers in Melbourne. And then it became a cultural gut fit as well as the bottom line. So sure. How did we achieve a product that we could sell to the market at a reasonable rate, sticking with our 100% Australian made, which we're very passionate about, but also how did it fit with our lifestyle? So Andrew and I, we have 3 children at school. So we didn't want to be jetting off to another state or down the road to Melbourne 4 hours one way to check in on these sorts of things. So when it all came to the wash up and lead, they came to the party value aligned, the right fit for us in that sense, which is very important, but also really the ability to want to grow with us and trial new things. So they'd never considered being, an assembly team before, but they were willing to embrace that to get this work happening in the region. So that meant, we were more than happy to give them a go, and it's proven to be a great decision. So they were very compatible on price, and they work so closely with us, and they're prepared to make changes and think of things outside the square to get us where we need to go. So we're nearly 2.5 years into that relationship now, and they keep growing with us. We went from a packaging room of 1 person 1 day a week to a full team of 4 assemblers and 20 Boilermakers. So they've grown with us to install those products and those changes.
Well, when I was talking with them, I could tell, just from their own excitement to see the business growing, and everyone keeps referring to your Instagram feed. So, the photos tell the story. And I know it's pretty much boom time for you right now, especially in Tasmania. So it's congratulations on all your efforts there. But
thank you.
It's very good work. And for you, Stephen, you've been involved with Glide now for, I think, just on 2 years since you bought the company.
That's correct.
So tell us a bit more about how you came to be involved with Glide, and maybe just give us a brief introduction about the company and what you do.
Okay, so myself and business partner had SPG. So we co-founded SPG and had that company as a mine service company for 16 years. And then from there, we decided that we wanted to look at other businesses that concentrated on manufacturing in WA. So we set up a set of criteria for a business without any specific what that business would be doing. Went to the market, and lo and behold, we came up with a wheelchair business, which we would have never ever thought that we were going to enter into in the start. But here we are. So we looked at this business because it had very good bones. It's been around since 1974. So it's a long history, and we saw that it could use some more advanced manufacturing and also some business change of business ideas. Let's put it that way. What we do is we build manual and power wheelchairs, but every single chair that we build is custom built or tailor built to one person. That we don't build 20 chairs and then send them out to distributors. We build every single chair for one person. It comes in as a script form from a OT anywhere within Australia or New Zealand, and we build that chair for that person.
Now that must have its own issues too, Stephen, but how your plans are to modernise the processes at your business. You're looking to invest in more smarter processes and digitalisation.
Yeah.
So you might tell us a bit about when you bought the company, what did it look like, and what do you want it to look like? What do the next few years become?
So when we bought the company, the previous owners were in their late 70s. They had worked predominantly in the business for the last 10 years. They didn't see the advance of computers. They thought that maybe accounts needed a computer, and maybe the stores might. No, the stores didn't have a computer. The purchasing had a computer, but there was very few computers throughout the whole business. We have no CNC throughout the business. Everything was done by paper, so people walked around from place to place with pieces of paper that they'd handwritten. There was no real cataloguing of the store. There's an ERP system called Greentree, which we still use at the moment, but we sat down for probably 3 months and just observed and took in information from how the business was running. And then we started to look at how we knew as soon as we came into the business that there would be benefits to be made. So we put in a proper management system. We put in procedures. We put in, we got our own HR. So the general manager and the production manager were trying to deal with all HR issues. So we got our own HR manager. So that we set it up in a proper company structure. We put computers throughout most of the business, but we didn't actually we led into that because computers were scaring. We have people that have worked here 35 years, 35, 25, 20, 15s. A lot of organisations have been here for a long time. And then we started the implementation of a new ERP system, M1, which will take on their advanced manufacturing as we introduce it. The company has a very, very good product and a very good range of products, but they haven't done any R&D for a long period of time. So we implemented an R&D structure as well to introduce new models and changes and bring more modernised materials and fabrics into the business.
And how many people do you employ at the moment?
At the moment, we've got 46. And
so that's been quite a journey then to bring that group of people along the journey, this transformation that's underway. How have you found engaging with the workforce and describing to them the vision?
Well, the vision, the workforce was, the workforce needed some motivation. So we did all the basic, straightforward things that you would do in what I'm going to say is a normal business. So we put everyone got PPE, as in all got uniforms, boots, normal types of things. Everyone become part of a team. We put in comment boxes. How do you think we can improve things? We had people that once we put all the policies in place and we set up all the structures and things like that, there were some people that obviously didn't like that and might have moved on. But in
some ways, what you're describing, Stephen, is you're pretty much starting from scratch. So it seems to me that the workforce must have been motivated to come along that journey with you, and certainly the vision that you're describing. And it's no small feat to have tailored manufacturing in a production process. So this is no small feat.
Yeah. Well, the workforce is very proud of what they produce. The wheelchairs are a need, not a want. From the start of the manufacturing, we're true manufacturers. We bring in raw steel. We do bring some components in from overseas, controllers and things that we can't produce here. But we are true manufacturers. We build that. They see it go out. From the time the chassis for a power wheelchair started to be put together, there's a script form there with the person's name on it, who that chair is going to be built for, and that follows it throughout the whole construction period.
Yeah, okay. We've started getting some questions in, so this is great, and I'll fire the first one to you, Stephen, which is, how did you approach reinventing a business and the culture like yours, which was so entrenched in the older methods? So you've explained a bit about that, and certainly the motivation behind it. And you mentioned that some people may have left and gone on to other things. So it seems like you've got everyone on the bus now, and you're all pointing in the right direction.
The general manager and the production manager, and I'm going to say most of the team were looking forward to change. They were looking forward to seeing how that would happen. You will approach them with an open expression, yep, and say, this is where I want to head to. You will find people, we do, if you ask me now to go and build a wheelchair, I can't build your wheelchair. I can run a business, but I can't build your wheelchair. So these guys obviously know how to build a wheelchair. So when you go down and say, these are the things I'd like to implement, and they say, we tried that once before, it didn't work. Now, that might not have worked in 1986, it might not have worked in 1995, might not work 5 years ago. But did they have the equipment and the support to try and get that to happen? So we introduced just small amounts of things where just monumental little changes along the way. Things like they used to hand write serial numbers down, like a 20-digit serial number down off the motors before they put them on into a book. And then they took that book and then they took it every once a week, they took it in, and someone then put that from off the book into a computer onto a spreadsheet and saved it. And
I hope you've kept those books.
The books are still there, but then we said we're going to put a scanner in there because it'll scan the serial number and just put it straight in the. That was a simple change. And obviously, if someone's standing there handwriting all these numbers out, when you give them a scanner, And they go, well, is there anything else these things can do? So it's just these little changes. Instead of picking.
So you would recommend, though, that for all the listeners out there, that open communications is one of the key drivers here. Let everyone know what the vision is, show them the measurements along the way, and keep everyone informed as you progress.
And just start with something small and expect failures.
Yeah, okay.
So we haven't had any monumental failures at the moment in implementing things, but I know that we're implementing the M1 ERP system, which is going to be a monumental change for the way that they do things.
Okay.
And, they'll be having tablets. So the information, there's a change. There's a screen down there that we're now putting information on. So they've just started to look at screens. And then once the ERP system, that's where they'll be getting their job orders from. So it's just slowly coming through.
I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you about ERP because we've got some questions firing through, which is great. So for everyone out there, please feel free to keep asking these questions. And I've got one here for you, Kimberly, which was around intellectual property. So as you're outsourcing the production, you're spending time on the design and engaging with the customers through Instagram and other methods, which is terrific. But how does intellectual property look for Shingleback Off-Road, and how do you manage and protect the IP that you're developing?
Yeah, well, and that's a big one. That was, we had a rude awakening to the world of IP coming from a non-business background. So we quickly learned about non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality agreements through an accelerator program that we did. So now we're on the front foot and we actually get those signed before commencing work with consultants or people that come on board the team and with lead manufacturing in particular. So we own the designs. We work with IP Australia to get registration and investigate patents and those sorts of things. But it is tricky, but so far so good. And we're finding that people really respond well when you do ask them to sign the NDA. It shows protection for both parties. So it's been good.
And so in the production process, there's quite often a lot of innovation too, isn't there? And so how is that managed from the production side when lead, your producer partner, might say, we've got a better way, can we tweak the design? Is that something you work on together?
Yeah, so far it's probably been more with our in-house engineer that we're sort of encountering that, but we did work with our solicitor to include that in the non-disclosure.
Okay.
So any design that is ours initially and any of those tweaks actually belong to us. So we're protected from that side as well.
Yeah.
So, but that can be a minefield, and I would certainly no expert on it, and I would definitely suggest seeking that expertise from an IP lawyer when you're making those agreements. Yeah.
Were there any costly mistakes along the way, or was it just the frustration of trying to get it right?
Well, the costly mistake has come in not having the IP protection. Okay. So because again, and there's probably a big message in that about backing yourself and what you're building and what you believe in. There were some products, one, we didn't know we needed it. And then the second, we were in too much of a hurry because we were scared someone was going to beat us to the punch. Okay. And what that has meant now is that there's a lot of people out there, should we say, taking liberty with the designs and the products and us having not a leg to stand on.
Okay. And I know the company's growing rapidly, and so you've certainly got a good partnership there with Lead in Albury and Wodonga, doing good things. But as the company continues to expand, again, you're doing great things in Tasmania and all across Australia, but I know there's talk about global exports. And do you think if that was the case, would you be looking at other production sites globally? Or at this stage, do you think that Lead would be able to match the production of your sales?
Well, that's actually a number one priority at the moment. We've been discussing for the past 2 days in our meetings, is that ability, because we are quite conscious of the risk of having one manufacturer. So if something did happen to supply, or we grow too fast, because our workshop is in a bit of a similar situation to what Stephen is encountering, with some of our processes being very manual and probably not best practice. So we grew by about 300% in Christmas, and that was our first real test on our workforce and can they keep up? And the answer is yes, but if we double to global manufacture, maybe not without the new techniques and technology coming into play. So we're currently discussing what it would look like to find a manufacturer overseas, but only for that overseas market. So those racks wouldn't come back into Australia. So yeah, so we're still very new in these discussions and what that could look like. But as you said, it's the word's getting out there, and we're getting some pretty amazing partnership opportunities popping up that would probably mean international distribution within the next 12 months. So,
Good.
you know, as you said, major partnerships in Tasmania, New Zealand, and then we've got a lot of interest in European countries. So it's pretty exciting.
A great regional Australian success story. So congratulations on all your efforts. I keep following all the work there with a passion. It's great. We do have a poll question here for everyone, so we'll get ready to put that poll question up. And I'd really welcome your feedback on this, because there's so much change going on in innovation, especially through the last more than 12 months now with the COVID response. But the question is, have you introduced Industry 4.0 and digitalisation into your production process? So if everyone can take the time to answer yes or no for that, we really welcome your feedback. And we'll get to Stephen about talking about the digitalisation work over there at Glide. And we have a question, which I'll get to in a second about that too. But have you introduced Industry 4.0 and digitalisation into your production processes? Yes or no? There's so much work going on underway, isn't it? And haven't we all responded well to the COVID crisis? You've heard me talk in previous seminars about the response. The COVID-19 manufacturers' response register continues to grow, which we're very happy about. So feel free to engage on that. But how are we looking there for some answers, Kelly? Here comes the response. Oh, look at that. Now that tells me what a great opportunity we have here across Australia. And you've heard me talk about engaging with our great university researchers to support your efforts. What I like to always say is that the universities are standing ready to support you and look at innovations and help you on this digital journey. And the benefit for that is that they don't care what brand you buy. They will just look at what's the solution you're trying to achieve, and they'll work with you to develop the best process. And I experienced that again just last fortnight down in Tasmania, where I was able to take people from the University of Wollongong in their facility for intelligent fabrication. We walked some of the factory floors down there about robotics welding, and now those relationships are taking off, and we've got a group coming up to Wollongong to visit the university to see some of this great robotics welding technology in action. So the digital transformation is underway. It will make a difference to your business. And so to Stephen, we're hearing all about that. But as far as the ERP, we've got a question here, if we can pick your brain on, could you clarify which ERP system you're looking to implement? And I think you mentioned a bit about that before. The question is, our business also manufactures highly customised products, and we struggle to find software that would support us well. So it's back to this customisation, which you appear to be doing very well.
So the current system is Greentree, which is not being supported anymore. We went and looked at all ERP systems, and myself and a business partner, I'm on the production side, so I'm engineering, production, operations. He's law, finance, administration, that type of.
Okay. Sounds like a good partnership.
So yeah, never do we pass. But we used Cybiz in our previous business of ours, and we didn't like it that much. But we got convinced when we looked at all the other options that Cybiz was a good way to go. So we looked at that and realised that we're actually out of our depth. So we then employed a ERP implementation manager, if you'd like to call it that, and brought him in and said, will this do what we wanted to do? We'd gone to some other businesses that were running Cybiz that were using it for manufacturing, but because of our high customization, they were making, as the other businesses would probably say, they were making 500 of these and 500 of those, but we're making one of each. So we researched it all and came back with the best manufacturing ERP system being M1. And so then accounts, HR, accounts, payroll, all has to use what system is hooked onto the M1 system. And I've seen this in the mining industry many a time, is that the accounting pick the ERP system for the mine.
Yes.
They're not worried about production. Yes. They're not worried about manufacturing. they're not worried about maintenance and stores and things like that. They're worried about their system and how complicated the system is. So by the time the mine gets commissioned, these people are coming in and getting whatever they've been given. But we reversed that. So we looked at the best manufacturing system that we could get for us. And then accounting, we didn't even ask about. We knew there'd be an accounting package in there, and somehow we'd get it to work.
That's great feedback. And so we've just put up a link to for that information for everyone out there.
Yep.
Great to have these questions coming through. So thanks for that one, Stephen. I'm sure that's going to be valuable. And for everyone watching this on playback over the coming months, go to that website and have a look at what Stephen's just shared with us then. It's very valuable information. So thank you for that. The next question is to both of you. So we'll go with hear what Shingleback think about this with the distinct advantages and disadvantages of producing in-house and outsourcing, as Kimberley's doing, based on business maturity. So you've acquired a business, Stephen, that's been around for some time, and you're transforming that now. So business maturity is different to what we might hear from Kimberley at Shingleback. But what's your thoughts around that, Kimberley? How do you see the advantages or disadvantages of your production?
Okay, well, maybe I'll flip and go the disadvantages first.
Yep.
For us, we're still relatively young, I guess you would say, about 4 years old. The disadvantages lately have been around the prototyping and the delays that some of that outsourcing can build, and that's because our manufacturer doesn't have, well, it's not a one-stop shop for us. So, for example, the laser cutting, Andrew will prototype something and then we need to get it done and then to get it back and so on and so forth. So that's a disadvantage that can really take too long. But the advantage is the responsiveness in just about everything else. So if we're having an assembly issue, we're right here that we can work with Lead to get that addressed straight away. Being local and down the road, they're quite flexible and accommodating to different things that we want. So Wodonga Albury has quite a good basis of suppliers, and we can typically get things done pretty quickly. So keeping it, we kind of think of Lead as being in-house, I guess, even though it is outsourced. So that's the advantage for us. It's close and it's very familiar, and we're a good team.
Yeah, you've certainly built a great relationship there. I've got to say, it was great to see you all in all, progressing, which is great. And so, Stephen, what's your thoughts around that business maturity as far as insourcing or outsourcing?
So for us, we want to bring more things in-house because we tailorize so that the chairs so much. A simple thing would be, if we want to change the design of something, to get something cheap, you order it by the 1,000 or by the 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put 10,000 in stores and maybe we use them over the course of 2 years, but the product's cheap, but I've got to use them. But because we want to continue to innovate and continue to change the product, even if I pay a little more by bringing it in-house, I don't have to make as many, I don't have to carry as much stock. And if we want to change just simple things where, because the chair, these people live in these chairs. So if our R&D and designers come in and say, look, we're going to change the curves of things, the mechanical properties of that, whatever we're talking, it's a bush or an arm or mechanical properties stay the same, but the way the shape of it marries into the rest of the chair, we want to continually develop. So the chair is always looking new and modern and fresh. So by bringing it in-house, we can build chairs in a group of products instead of saying, I've got to go and build, even within our workshops, we say, okay, we're going to build 500 arms, and we get the 500 arms as a job run, and then we put it in stock. Let's just say 250 left, 250 right. We put all those jigs away, and then we're on to the next product. But if we can get it to where we bring more in-house and become more automated, we don't have to build as many, and we can continually change it. When we purchased the business, one of the power wheelchairs, from when we received the script form till when the client got it, was 12 weeks. And that was one of the headaches. That was one of the big headaches. So we've got down there to 3 weeks. So even if we have our highest production,
that's fantastic.
We'll have a chair tailor-built to you in 3 weeks' time.
Fantastic.
And that's by not building the great quantities of parts, by building smaller amounts of parts, but just keep changing them, just keep changing around.
So actually, Stephen, that leads into another question we have here, which is, what are some production processes that I can employ in my business to create a more digitalized company? What have been some of the processes that you've done so far? You know, to go from 12 weeks down to 3 weeks, that's quite an achievement. So as far as digital processes in the company, we talked a little bit about that.
So if I don't know what that business is, but as just a general rule of thumb, if you see someone walking around with a piece of paper to go give it to the next person, right? You just say, I have a problem. If you see someone handwriting a label, you say, I've got a problem. If you see someone saying, I'll just go and find those parts, they're up on the top left shelf over there. Jimmy moved them before. No, I couldn't get them in there, so they're over there now, Bill. You've got a problem. So any of those things there, right? You say, guys, we have a problem. Let's solve this problem. They say, we've always done it this way. You say, well, unfortunately, that's no good. Now, let's just call it a simple thing about labels. When I said we're going to have a digital label printer, okay? So it just digitally labels it out. You just pick it up, you put on the sticker. When they said, but we ordered 10,000 of these handwritten stickers that we fill in, so we'll use those first. And you go, just throw those in the bin, and we have a digital label maker. And so it's all these things that just change along the way, and it slowly implements the system into a culture where they're saying, well, no, that's good. I don't have to go looking for those parts anymore. I know where they are.
I really like that one, Stephen. That's very practical advice. So thank you for that. That's gold, actually. So we have another one here. Okay, mountain biking. So it's growing as a sport. We know that. And the question here, so it's grown hugely during COVID. How do you intend to build on this momentum through innovation and other things as we lift the COVID restrictions? What's your thoughts around the response? You know, I guess maybe you can talk us through the process of how has COVID affected the business?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I can answer most of it. There's a fantastic innovation coming, and we've been working on for quite some time. COVID, last April, March, we're probably sitting there like most people, not really understanding, what was going to happen. Our word of mouth was growing, and for us, luckily, cycling was a COVID-approved activity, and a bike shortage ensued. And then people found themselves with these amazing mountain bikes, probably in a price bracket 3 times more than they had anticipated spending. So the hunt was on for a rack that could look after those bikes. So our sales did just go crazy. How we leveraged that was by seeking out great partnerships. So we needed our bike rack out there in places that people rode, and particularly without being able to travel, they needed to be in major destinations. So we're official partners with Medina down in Tasmania, and our racks are run at Derby as well. So, in terms of Tasmania, there's a lot of customers touching and filling our bike racks all the time. Over back in, on the mainland, we're now working with Thredbo Resorts. So there's some innovations there coming for the white season as well as the green. So watch this space on that one. And, the same down in here in Victoria. So we concentrated a lot of effort on getting really quality people who fit our brand and are culturally aligned, that use the product for what it's designed for. And Andrew's very practically minded when it comes to design. So he likes it's got to be tough and it's got to last. And it's, the less moving parts, the better to be a reliable product. So now we're focusing on what happens with COVID and Australian travel. So what's our opportunity with caravans and those sorts of things?
Oh,
but
wow.
Again,
let's start talking about caravans. I think it's like a 12-month break for a caravan these days. So amazing. What an amazing time we're all living through. I think it's
but everyone's riding. It's awesome.
Yeah. And when I was down at Tasmania a couple of weeks back, I got up to the top of Mount Wellington and there was a few cars parked there with their Shingleback off-road bike rack. So I was pointing to, I know that company. So this is good. Made in Australia. Yeah. Thank you, Kimberly. For you, Stephen, though, how's COVID impacted your business over the last 12 months or so?
Well, it has made no difference to us whatsoever, basically, because as you said, it's a class 1 medical device. The people still need that chair, whether we have COVID or don't have COVID.
Yep.
They're things that we did in-house. Obviously, we got all the masks for everybody in-house. We still have a dedicated hygienist cleaner. So not just a cleaner, but a cleaner that goes through and just goes through the workshop and through the showrooms and just continually cleans all hand touch surfaces, and which gives our clients some peace of mind that we're not transferring COVID around the place.
We've got a question just came up while you're saying that around supply chains. Do you have any issues with supply chains due to COVID?
We had some issues with supply chain, but basically we identified that as soon as COVID came along, we sat down, and myself, business partner, and the general manager, and we said, list where do you think we could have a problem? And we listed where we thought we had a problem. So we placed large orders on those manufacturers straight away. Then we looked at, we do get some things from overseas. So we said, this is our one supplier from overseas. So we identified those and went out looking for all different suppliers from different countries so that we can spread that risk throughout the globe, let's say.
Yeah. And these are all important discussions that we've had with our members all across Australia. So for everyone out there, we've heard you loud and clear. The COVID-19 Manufacturers Response Register was terrific and continues to grow. Supply chains have been an issue, we all know that, but the ability to respond and keep driving innovation in Australia has been strong. I'm so encouraged from the stories that I've seen and people I've been able to talk to. It's certainly been a crazy time here in Australia, but haven't we responded so well as a nation? The thing that we have, though, might start with you, Kimberly, is around finding the right people now. We're hearing about the mining activity picking up in Western Australia, and I'm sure Stephen will touch on this, but the mines are now trying to take staff and keep all that iron ore production going. And so how's that impacting now? So the question we have here is, how are both companies finding the labour market in the manufacturing sector? This company is a WA-based company with many of the skills that they are looking for are just not in the market. How do you overcome the challenge? So we'll start with you, Kimberly. What are you seeing as far as the skills for your business?
Yeah, it's definitely impacting. I should maybe a tongue in cheek is we're okay at the moment because we're mostly not allowed to go to WA, so we get to stay here. But no, Leader definitely talking about that, and probably the biggest impact at the moment is the common cold. Whereas before we could pop, you could pop people down in a separate spot of the workshop and they could keep working. But now you've just got to stay home. So they've implemented.
You don't dare sneeze anywhere in public at the moment, do you?
No, definitely not. And yeah, so that's impacting. But we've sort of it's been fantastic. Leader embracing, allowing people expressing interest in Shingleback to come and do work experience and industry tours through their workshop, and they're picking up apprentices. But they are saying it's on their radar as something that is really COVID has. It was already a skills shortage to start with. And now our other impact is actually housing. So we're finding people wanting to move regionally to work with us, but there's no housing. So it's sort of a double-edged sword, but yeah.
But that's a much broader discussion, isn't it? So really we need local government to get involved, the local councils to look at the housing supply issues. I'm hearing that in places like Dubbo and other regional cities as well. So it's certainly all across Australia. It's, in some respects, it's a good problem to have because we're all so busy. We need more people and we need the right people. But at the end of the day, we really do need to scale our production. So I was interested to hear what you said about the schools. Is there anything in particular happening with the local schools in your region?
I think there is. I think, again, it's back to that mountain biking growth. There is, our trailer sales are also incredibly high. There's a lot of schools and outdoor education groups embracing mountain biking as increasing participation, mental health, a lot of recovery and rehab. So we're watching those organisations, really embrace cycling. So yeah, it's just another. I think I've lost my train of thought there.
About getting some of the school students maybe for work experience.
Yeah, so the kids are in school and then they're seeing the Shinglebacks. They're going to inter-school sports, and then they hear that they're regional. It's wow, there's something new and innovative on the market, and we'd love to. Our child is keen on that sort of a skill set. So yeah, it's been great that Lead embrace it because we have no workshop.
And you've all heard me talk about in the past about getting more and more kids involved in manufacturing and how do we attract them to manufacturing in Australia today. I'm really enthusiastic about Shingleback's Instagram page, because those kids are going to look at that Instagram feed and see the bike racks that are being produced right in their hometown, and they're probably going to reach out to Kimberley more often and say, how can we get involved? And some of those kids might want to be involved with the design of the next bike rack. Some of the kids might want to get involved with the robotics welding and the production side. But this is where communications and the sales side of things becomes even more important. But I think I'm getting a bit away from that, because that'll be for an upcoming seminar around the sales side. But keep up the good work with Instagram, Kimberley. I'm really, really pleased with the work you're doing there. But to you,
holidays.
Yeah. But to you, Stephen, the skills side of the business and coming from the mining sector yourself, they're prepared to pay, aren't they?
Yes, they're prepared to pay, and they'll take more people on than is required, because they don't exactly know what's happening. So what we have is what I'm going to call is a factory worker. So a factory worker we would have more factory workers than boilermakers and electricians. And so the two skills that we have, we got to keep hold of, the electricians and the boilermakers or the welders. So if there's some types of little, let's just call it a bracket. If a factory worker wants to then start to say, look, I wouldn't mind to have a go at boiler making or welding, that we take them into a bay, we train them what to do. And then once they started to get some gift to it, or if they appreciate that, if they go and do a night school course and pass it, we'll pay for the night school course.
Oh, good one.
If a lot of people might say, we'll only go halfway through, and then, the draw of the other things take them away. But if they do any night school courses that will benefit us, well, once they've completed them, we'll pay for them.
Oh, that's good work.
That sort of keeps. So we bring in a factory worker with no skills, and let's say within 5 years he would have skills and be able to be moved in around factory.
I think there's more and more opportunity that we can all work together to get the kids involved in manufacturing and get them out to the factory to visit you guys and see the work's underway, to get them enthusiastic. COVID's been such a funny time. My son has just finished his carpentry apprenticeship, and that at the time they said we can't issue a certificate to you because of the COVID lockdown, which I thought was strange, because they sent him a paper letter saying congratulations, but it's just been a strange time, hasn't it? But as a carpenter now, he's been able to get out there and practice his trade. I just think the more we can get people out into the factories and into the local environments, we'll get the story and the message out that there's actually a very bright future for Made in Australia.
So that's what we're trying to promote, the Made in Australia, and that we are locally manufactured. It's very difficult for the previous company. The company before we took over did no marketing, no advertising, because the product was so good.
Okay.
And now we're implementing that we do manufacture these here in Western Australia.
That really means a great, huge potential when you think about the way that you could, go about sales and marketing the business. I look forward to following that over the next 12 months, and look forward to working closely with you on all that. So this is good. We have a question, which is, do you believe that the experiences of the last 12 months will influence the just-in-time production versus just-in-case? Any thoughts on that?
I'll go first. I looked at the lean, worked in the mining industry, worked overseas for 13 years. That just in time for me, in all the things I've done, has never worked.
Okay.
I've always had to have more materials, because that means the mining industry, you cannot shut down. That's just as simple, as straightforward as that. And for this business here, we have to have that chair. We have to have the spare for the person. If the chair breaks down or needs repairs or wears, we got to have that here. But you need to have a balance, so that the managers, possibly before, through not having the correct information coming through the ERP system, was always over embellishing the spares, because they knew they were secure. So once we put the new ERP system in and can start to look at all that data, we can start to reduce some of the stock, and then realise where a comfortable go-between is. But obviously comfortable for us would be if we can have the raw material here No, we can make groups of parts for a chair instead of making hundreds for, if you're looking for one part and they say, well, in my job order, I've got to make 100 of these before I can put them into stores. Well, then that will get us closer to the lean manufacturing and just in time and reducing stock levels.
And my mate Alfredo Martinez Cole at UTS here in New South Wales has just said just in time versus highly customizable products. And that's really what you're doing. So this is good work and good time. And look at how Australia is responding. I'm so excited for the years ahead. There's so much opportunity. It's just growing by the day. I guess that's a part of being able to get out and talk to you all and visit your factory. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and happy to take your messages and support wherever I can. If I happen to be coming towards your town, drop me a line. I'm happy to call in and see all the latest at your business. We've got so much opportunity coming over the next few months to share your stories with a wider audience. So please keep sending those messages through. Kimberly, I always tell people about a great federal government program called APR Intern. So for the skills side of things, we might put a link up for APR Intern for everyone out there to look at that, which is around postdoc PhD students that the federal government's subsidising their wages for them to come and work in your business, which might be of interest for Shingleback on the design side of things, perhaps offering some support around design engineering, but so much broader around that. But just food for thought when you mentioned those earlier comments.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. Yeah. And I'm pleased to hear about the just in time, because it's part of our conversation at the moment, how to get that good balance. So thank you, Stephen. I'll tuck that one away.
There you go. Now, I did ask you previously, and I'm in some respects putting you both on the spot, but about any good books that you can share with our listeners, and maybe a podcast or something that you listen to. I'll go to you first, Stephen, but is there any good books that you could recommend that, maybe changed your view on manufacturing? Or is there a good podcast you listen to as you drive along?
No, I don't listen to podcasts, but the book that I did was The Toyota Way, Lean Leadership. I went through that, but what it does is that you look at that, you read the book, and we've actually, when we move out to our new factory, we've got a lean technician that's coming in. We've already engaged him. And if someone says they're going to introduce that into your system, all I'm saying is you've got to find that balance. So if they're saying Toyota Way is the only way, then I'm thinking that we as manufacturers here in Australia might struggle, but you pick the best parts out of all of it, and then that's what you implement. And then you just continually realize that there's always going to be improvements, which we would see anyway as new technology comes about. And the other one is any of the great courses. I just put them on and just listen to them, and I'll be picking things left field, right field, and you just pick up a little snippet out of each one of them, and it helps you. I
agree, and that's growing, isn't it? Oh, that's a good one. Very good point. So thank you for that, Stephen. How about you, Kimberly? Any good books?
Yeah. I thought they were good. So I won't say they were manufacturing specific, because it's just myself and Andrew, so we had to be sort of across a lot to kick off with. So what I found really effective, I listened to Small Business Big Marketing podcast with Timbo Reid. And whilst it's about marketing, you hear from the entrepreneurs and the people who are bringing products to market as well. So you actually get a lot of other stuff thrown in there. So whilst it's a marketing podcast, it's actually a business and how to run a business more so, and challenges that you face and those sorts of things. So that's a good one. And then I just tried to broaden my knowledge of business. And the last one I read was actually Shoes of Prey, Jodie Fox. I think it's called Reboot. So again, all those things, she set up manufacturing overseas and in Australia, and she grew and it went boom, and how she's come back from that and the lessons learned. So I found that was a really interesting book.
And it was a good read, like an easy read for people?
Yeah, definitely. I would say so. Yep. I think The Accidental Entrepreneur is easier in terms of its language, but it was very layman's term, and it was very raw in that she did have an amazing, successful business and set all these factories up, heart and soul, and it did, the pitfalls, really important stuff to learn really quickly, I would think.
Oh, you can always learn from others' mistakes, and it's cheaper sometimes to learn from other people's mistakes than your own.
That's it. And I mean, I would recommend trying to find it on audio book. I think it would be a good driving book.
Well, we'll certainly find the links and we'll put them up there for everyone to take advantage of Kimberly's recommendations and the Toyota Way as well from Stephen. So thank you for that. That's good to have that feedback. I guess it's really great to hear how your business, both of your companies, have responded during COVID. We're really enthusiastic here at AMGC about the feedback we're getting from these seminars. So again, I'd recommend for everyone out there, drop us a note if you think we could do anything better or if you'd like to hear something more. We're more than happy to make connections to our panel speakers and connect you up right across Australia. So keep that coming. I think we're going to show some slides now about what we've touched on today and what we've got coming up in the next few weeks. But really appreciate your feedback, both Stephen and Kimberly. So today we talked about production, and at a glance, it's the 4th step on the Smiley curve. And I know that you all know the Smiley curve out there, but it's so important. Production refers to the manufacturing and actual creation of a product. Processes for production have evolved over the years, as we all know. Manufacturers need to move towards intelligent production processes. And we heard some of that feedback from Stephen in particular on more digitalisation around the production processes. It's an important step on the Smiley curve. However, we know that valuing and allocating resources to all the steps across the Smiley curve creates an intelligent and efficient production process. It's the whole gamut, isn't it? The more we can get involved in all those steps can create more value for your business today and create that long-term benefit for the future. And it's really great to hear from both of you about engaging with the people on the production side. I think that's vitally important. It always comes down to people. Manufacturers can collaborate with other local manufacturing companies to create great products. And we've seen that with Shingleback. Again, it was terrific just to be able to see that production in action. But again, I'm going to keep harping about Instagram and social media because the more we can get that message out, the better for all of us. So that's production we've spoken about today. Please join us for our next one on the 2nd of June, which will be around the value of distribution and how do we get your products out to the market. We will talk about the sales and social media in particular from my side on the 16th of June, and then the value of services at the end of June. So it's all coming around pretty quick. Can you believe that we're nearly halfway through 2021? If you're not already a member, I encourage you to join. It's completely free. You're growing a nationwide cohort of advanced manufacturers, people like Stephen and Kimberly who are changing their business today, who are happy to share their story and work with you and support your business growth. Have a look at Manufacturing Academy. We will see some of the great business leaders sharing their story about how they're transforming their business right now. And the latest one is around Professor Veena Sahajwalla talking about the circular economy. And we know there's a lot going on in recycling goods and getting that into the supply chains. The COVID-19 Manufacturers Response Register is open for anyone to get on board. It's completely free for you to register your services or your products. Perhaps you're looking for services or products. Again, completely free. And this platform will connect you to some of our great Australian manufacturers. I'm so glad that our speakers could join us today. Thank you, Kimberly Taylor from Shingleback Off-Road and Stephen Walsh at Glide Products in Western Australia. Thanks very much, and we'll see you again shortly.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. It was great. Bye.
Bye.